A man finds an ancient golden pot. He peeled back the earth around it, then slowly took out the pot of gold, pouring out the sand inside. Little did he know the magic of the golden basin. He picked up the pot of treasure and cleaned it, filled it with milk. Suddenly, some white liquid came out. The man took a closer look. Oh my God! It was coming from a golden pot 20 meters away. From a golden pot. The man is stunned. The milk was flowing like water from a well. It kept flowing out. In no time at all, the milk poured out of several large vats of water. No matter how hard the men poured, the milk wouldn't stop pouring. This golden pot actually produced its own milk. He found that only when he turned the pot upside down, the milk would only disappear. With this pot of gold, the man soon became a milk baron. In no time at all, the thatched cottage became a large villa. But as they say, wealth makes people jealous. At night, two thieves came to the cottage, opened the iron lock on the safe, and stole the gold pot. But as the thieves fled, they accidentally fell, and the pot fell into the river, and so the pot was forced to leave home. A few years later, a woman found it by the river. The woman looked at the patterns on the pot. She knew it was not an ordinary pot. She washed it and put the rice cakes in it, but to her surprise, there were many rice cakes in the golden pot. The woman thought for a moment, put in a $100 bill, but the next moment, a lot of cash appeared in the pot. The woman was terrified. She was afraid that people would see her, so she hid the pot of gold under the cowshed. But when she deposited the money in the bank, there was a problem. The police found that the numbers on the money were all the same, so they arrested her. That's when Lisa heard the woman's words. She immediately had an idea. She was going to dig up this pot of gold. When the two arrived at the place, both were stunned. This is not a cow at all. It was a rhinoceros. This is an old golden pot. No matter what you put in it, it will replicate infinitely. The woman uses the pot to duplicate a lot of money, but just as she's about to save it, there was a problem, because the money was numbered exactly the same. So the police arrested her. Lisa learned that the woman had buried the pot of gold in a cowshed, so she rushed over here, pretending to treat the cow, to steal the pot of gold. But when they saw the cow, they were stunned. This cow looks like a rhino. It's very grumpy. I heard that 75 people had been injured. 2 were getting nervous, but for the sake of the golden pot, the 2 had to move forward with courage. They took their weapons. They slowly walked towards the rhino. That's when Jack drove back home. They looked back. They panicked. It turns out Lisa is a professional con artist. It was because they had cheated Jack. They were sent to prison. So Jack recognized them by their backs. He recognized them. Seeing that he was about to be arrested, Lisa suddenly gathered her strength and rushed towards the But the pot of gold was not in their hands. Lisa doesn't give up easily, so they found a curly-haired man named Mike. They offered him a whopping $500 for his help. He came to Jack's house to apply for a job as a security guard. He was thrown out by his men, but what they didn't expect was, and that's when, the rhino's rope suddenly came off. The group was scared and ran away. When Mike turned around with his handsome, the rhinoceros was stunned by his aura. Mike then waved his small hand. The rhino didn't know why. He went back to the barn with his tail between his legs, and that was it. Mike was hired straight away. By nightfall, the plan to dig up the pot of gold begins. Watch out, a poisonous snake burrows into the pot of gold. The man doesn't notice. He takes the pot of gold and throws it to Lisa, but there are many more snakes in front of him, surrounding the pot of gold. At that moment, Jack also found Lisa to save her life. Lisa had no choice but to run away, as the exposed Mike, a sprint over the fence and escape. This time, the plan to steal the pot of gold has failed again. Jack looked at the pot of gold with a confused look on his face. He had no idea that the pot was a treasure. It wasn't long before Lisa drove her car straight into it. Just in time, Jack was having a conversation. He accidentally dropped his gun into the pot. Lisa and the gang rushed to grab the pot of gold. Then they got in their car and prepared to leave the place. When Dejuan saw this, he sent his men after him. But at that moment, the driver accidentally turned the treasure pot upside down. The magic disappeared instantly, and that's when the car drove into the swamp. They had no choice but to continue their escape on their bikes as they were about to be caught up. Lisa threw out the pot of gold, took a wooden stick, ready to fight them off. With a combination of slow motion, Lisa quickly took out a few men, but there were too many of them. They had to take the pot of gold and keep running. Eventually, the 2 of them leapt down with the pot in their arms into the raging yellow river. They managed to escape the enemy's pursuit. Lisa got the golden pot, using its magic, replicate the free seeds, so that the whole country could plant, and life is slowly getting better. If you had this pot of gold, what would you put in it?